Hi, Henrik Knudsen here. Let's go have a look at some models and approaches that we've been discussing in the international business environment. Surprisingly many. I now have about 15 minutes go through which other ones are the major, most important. Initially, we started off by discussing the complexity of the global economy, the role of financial institutions, national banks, etc. And quickly moved on to look at some of the organizational theory. What was really interesting to have a look at is to start with very mechanistic, machine-like, and very internal. Remember this, it was very internal within the organization, and only later came into this the organization collaborating with its environment, in a sense being shaped by the environment, but also being able to shape the environment. So that's the main focus areas here. And then we moved on to different types of hierarchical organizations, and from the hierarchy to the network. So this could be within organizations, but it can also be between organizations. For example, this could be a national sports union with its head office and then all different sports clubs that are hierarchical in themselves. Or, as we discussed with, for example, Uticon, a very flat network structure where the organization is ad hoc depending on which issues were what the challenges were, which issues would be dealt with. The next one is then on different organizational types, where we had 4 different aspects. We had the primary sector, agriculture, forestry, moving on to the secondary sector, tertiary sector with the service, and finally the experience economy with the quarterly sector. The point here is trying to combine it with organizational theory, where scientific management and hierarchical organizations are much more typical in the primary sector. And as we move into, for example, service, we get new organizational theories. And this is, of course, if we reflect on it, that we're moving from the 4 P's to include the 7 P's when we're talking about service. So the 7 P's include people, process, and physical environment, and hereby making it much more important to include the human factor. When we're talking about the different models to analyze a specific situation, one of the returning approaches was starting with a pest or a pestle approach. So we could the traditional pest with the political, economy, social, cultural, technological, and perhaps including environmental and legislative. So this is very much macro analysis, looking at the society as such. Which of these elements are currently or in the future going to influence the organization that we're analyzing, or the organizations that we're analyzing. Traditional books were looking at saying, well, the reason data for an organization is to create profit. In my opinion, the reason data for an organization is to be able to create value. So, in which different ways can an organization create value for existing or new customers? Moving away from profit maximization, which is looking at the shareholders, the people that own part of the organization, and instead looking, well, who is being influenced by this organization, or who has a potential interest in this organization, which led us on to the stakeholders. as opposed to the shareholders. So what we're trying to do here is assess all the different stakeholders and where they are contrary to the organization or contrary to a specific initiative. Let's say it's moving into a new market. The stakeholder chart would change dramatically. So bear in mind that this stakeholder chart is, as the others, but especially stakeholder chart, is a very, very dynamic model. So you could look at it at one situation and then again at a later. And so you've been through that several times, so I won't use very much time on that. The next one, on the contrary, is rather important. We've covered it a few times. The SWOT analysis, looking at internal aspects and external aspects, and try to find out which ones are helpful, strengths and opportunities, and which one can be harmful for the organization in a specific context. Always remember to look at the context. So, is it in this specific context, making a new product, making a new alliance, moving into a new market? Which elements could we make a SWOT analysis for, saying the strengths and the weaknesses internally to this initiative, and externally, what are the opportunities and what are the threats? A very, very important tool in your tool bag. This is also very important to have a look at the product life cycle. We haven't been touching it very much, but always try to place the organization, or should I say a specific product or service, on the PLC. Where is it in time? And this also shows the loss in the start, whether it's a development, it's investing in, which, for example, a new market, new product. So there's expenses before we start making money, and at some time we start making money, and when the area under the graph equals the area above, we have made the money that is previously invested. So around here would be the break-even point, and from here we start making money for the organization. Yes, so product life cycle, service life cycle, organizational life cycle also. Is it a new organization? Is it an older organization? Try and take these things into consideration. BCG matrix, I'm not too impressed by this model, but it's always a nice one to be able to throw in, say, where is it? Be attentive to this aspect. If it's a market share and they're moving into something new, naturally their market share will be very low. So to be able to legitimize, it would have to be a question mark. If it's a dog with a slow growth rate, what's the reason for moving into it at this current stage? This one, the internal customer perceived value. Initially it's an internal analysis. What is a basic product or service? What is in support? And what are enhanced? For each combination, we should have a specific combination for each segment, because each segment that we have in the organization is characterized by their own unique combination of the basic product and service, the combination of the support, and the enhanced service. So just note down, for each segment we have a unique combination of the perceived value. Strategic positioning, you've been through that a few times. Porter's 5. What's interesting for me every time is make sure you're very specific and stating this central. What is the competitive rivalry? What is the area that we're discussing? Is it clothes, or is it specifically outdoor clothing for bad weather? So, try and jiggle with a few options, and then conclude how you see this central area of the competitive rivalry, because that of course defines who the suppliers are and who the buyers are, who the new entrants could be, and which substitutions. So it's very central for how this complete Porter 5 Forces pans out. And speaking of Porter, when we're moving into internationalization, we have Porter's diamond in a national context and a double diamond in a global context. This in Book Boom. Make sure you just have these two and discuss this factor conditions, noting that related and supported industries in Porter's interpretation is an advantage. For example, chocolate production in Belgium, or bulbs in tulip bulbs in Holland, or windmills in Denmark. So if there's related and supporting industries, the factor conditions, i.e. the education, the infrastructure, etc., will be there. So there will be a factor conditions that support if there's a cluster of different organizations within this area. Value chain, you've done it several times. Be attentive to the value chain within the organization and the value chain when you take the upstream activities, i.e. before it gets into the organization, or the downstream activities from when it leaves the organization and all the way to the end producer. If it's a sustainability aspect, cradle to cradle could be one of the tools that you used. As soon as you say value chain, you should also include the next step, okay, the value shop. A completely different way of generating value. So this is this circular and knowledge difference between them, or information asymmetry, that makes it the doctor, the consultant, the marketing bureau, all these different companies that rely on information from the customers, their feedback, and then give them some different options that they can choose between. Or the value network that is not, I repeat, not a network as such as we know it from previously. There we are. It's not the network that we have over here where there's a network of different organizations. It's where the value proposition is made by the organization having access to an infrastructure. This could be an insurance company that has different contracts, or Telia, or some other company that sells, that has a contract, has the infrastructure for telecommunications, or DHL that has the infrastructure for logistics. These logistics companies have the infrastructure, access to trucks, cars, ships, trains, planes, etc., to get goods from one place to another. So what they're actually offering, the value proposition, is access to the infrastructure by different contracts. So value chain, value shop, value network. And then we're moving into these aspects. We only have 50 seconds left. Have a look through each one of them and write a few notes as to how they would be figured out. If I have the time, I've marked a few with red, or rather, later on I will just go through and have a few comments on the ones that are marked red. For example, on this macro, meso and micro level, then it's in your analysis up to you how you define what is a micro level, what is a meso level, and what is a macro level. It doesn't have to be global. It could be a branch that's the macro level, and the meso level is organized.